But our lead this hour comes from the city of brotherly love and a former Net making waves in Philadelphia. Yet again, the epicenter of a MALLER monologue, second night in a row. The beard has spoken. Now, you probably thought that facial hair could not speak. You're wrong. So, I don't know if you saw this or not. Possibly not. I'll give you the truncated version. So, the 76ers star James Harden recently revealed in an interview that he does not feel any pressure. In going into the postseason, the first round playoff series, the Sixers play the Toronto Raptors. Oh, Canada. And so that's the first matchup there for Philly. So why does James Harden claim that he does not feel any pressure? Quote, I don't have anything to prove. I don't feel any pressure. I don't feel any of that. Harden opined. Quote continues. For me, it's going out there and playing my game, trying to help my team win. Close quote. All right, so let us discuss the question, thumbs up or thumbs down on James Harden having to prove himself in these playoffs. So I am going 2 thumbs up on this. 2 thumbs up on James Harden in Philadelphia. So I've got Old Man and the Sea, Pork Producer, and Crutch. And we will combine all of these things together, and that will be the wonderful cheesesteak sandwich that we make. All right, so to tip off, James Harden, what he was doing here, spewing sports cliches. That's what he was doing. He was on sportscliche.com, and he's like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I don't feel any pressure. Just take it one game at a time, and I just want to help the team win. It was a combination of sportscliche.com meets Bull Durham, the famous iconic clip years ago. And much of it, of course, is talking out of his badunkadunk. From a pure basketball perspective, every man, woman, and child knows that James Harden has a void there on his big board, and it's put up or shut up time. That's when things go sideways. And as they say on Wall Street, James Harden at this point is a declining stock. He's a declining stock. Now, Harden has lost, whether it's a half a step or a full step, that's open for interpretation, but it's fair to say we can all agree that he is no longer considered a top 10 ball player in the business of basketball. Now, where is he now? Is he a top 30 player, top 40 player? That's open to debate also, but there's a big gap between the top 10 and the top 30. It's night and day. And that comes on the heels of a report from sources around Kevin Durant claiming that Durant was astonished by James Harden's pathetic conditioning this past season in Brooklyn that eventually led to the trade. Harden supposedly found that self-righteous. Okay. So this whole playoff thing, getting it done in the postseason, and Harden's quote, which was he doesn't have anything to prove, he doesn't feel any pressure and all that, it is a load of fertilizer. As Ernest Hemingway wrote in The Old Man and the Sea, the 1,000 times that he had proved it meant nothing. Now he was proving it again. Each time was a new time, and he never thought about the past when he was doing it. That's the mindset. Now, you could debate Harden whether or not he's actually proven anything. And in the playoffs, Harden's had some big stat lines. My memories of James Harden as a playoff performer, very similar to Casper the Friendly Ghost, as he has vanished back in his salad days with the Rockettes and some big playoff games against San Antonio. I remember one there that he didn't show up in against Golden State. He'll check out for a quarter here, a quarter there, a quarter everywhere. Now, furthermore, James Harden as a basketball player on the court has a lot to prove in the postseason. As a businessman, business is booming. He's good to go. So from that part of it, yeah, he's not worried about $6 a gallon gas. Harden's not staying up late at night because of inflation. He's staying up late at night because he's going to the ballet. And he'd like to see some shows at the ballet. The jiggle, 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 if you know what I'm saying. But Harden has looked around. He's seen what's happened here. And he's like, okay, let me monetize. He's been able to monetize. That's the word. He's monetized his career. And he can live like that famous line from that old perfume commercial back in the 80s. He can bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. That's Harden. He is a pork producer. It's pork barrel spending with James Harden. By a lot of hogs with the amount of money he's making. He's being paid off what he did for the Rockets. Harden is making $44.3 million this season. And he's got a player option for $47 million next year. And Harden is likely to say no, and turn that down. Decline the option because he'll get even more money because there's a sucker born every minute. And news travels slowly that Harden is no longer a top 10 player. And as the old line goes, whoever says money doesn't buy happiness didn't know where to shop. Harden didn't care where he lives. He'll live anywhere. He's lived in Oklahoma, Houston, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and he'll continue his basketball sojourn somewhere else. Whoever's got next, and he'll just keep making the money, and occasionally he'll play well in the playoffs, and occasionally he won't. And that's that. All right, parting shot. Now, there is another part of this story. James Harden found this to be a pain in the ass. He was upset. He was more upset by the question about having to prove himself in the playoffs. He was more upset by the statements made by Tyronn Lue, the head coach of the People's Team, the Clippers, who back in March called Harden out, pointing out the volume of foul shots. So Harden was asked a response to Lue pointing out that Joel Embiid and James Harden are consistently getting to the foul line. And the coach of the People's Team said that he saw a stat saying that neither player would be a top 10 scorer if their foul shots were removed from the equation. So Harden gave a rebuttal, a rebuke to that, saying, quote, "I don't understand what the comment meant," Harden said. "Free throws are a part of the game. It's on the defense to have discipline and not foul," Harden blaming the other guy. That's what coaches should be teaching their players. Harden now educating Ty Lue on how to coach his team. Quote continues. "For me," Harden says, "I don't pay attention to it. I just try to go out there and make an impact on the game in a positive way every night." Close quote. All right, so on this one, this is a mini debate. Whose side are you on? Are you on the side of Ty Lue, who just merely pointed out that the absurd amount of trips to the charity stripe Harden and Embiid get? Or are you on the side of James Harden, that it's on the coaches to teach their players to not foul? All right, so I am on the side of Ty Lue, the tactician, the evil genius here. What the Clippers coach was saying was rather obvious. He was implying this, that if your game is so dependent on getting to the foul stripe, to have the officials blow the whistle, you're a paper tiger. You're a paper tiger. Depending on that is a crutch. It doesn't work long term. When you become too dependent on getting to the foul line, and when that void happens in the playoffs, and it will happen in the playoffs, you are then exposed because the officials typically swallow the whistle, although they certainly didn't do that in the Minnesota Clipper game. There were a lot of fouls in that game. But generally speaking, there's not as many foul calls, and they let them play. Let them play. Physical. It's a different type of game. And so you can play one way in the regular season, and that is your strength. And then what was a delicious buttercup becomes rancid and poison. It's covered in bleach. It becomes a weakness in the playoffs because you can't play that way. You can't depend on that game. If that's your most lethal weapon, you're screwed. Now, it can be something that you have, and listen, many of the great players get to the line a lot, but James Harden, that's been the knock on him. When you remove the foul shooting, when you take that out of the equation, he is lost. He's like Mike the Headless Chicken running around the court. You don't know what to do. He gets frustrated. He starts whining to the officials because they don't call fouls. He's like, what about that? It was in the regular season. That's a foul. It's like, come on, James. Get with the program. Get with the program, please.